Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark TV. You know who I am, Dr. Angela Butchester, and you know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, we want you fired up about my guest. My guest today is author Margaret Coan, and we'll be talking about her book, Sacred Listening, From Fear to Love. So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Margaret. Thank you so much for joining me here on Daily Spark TV.
Hello, Dr. Angela. So nice to be having a conversation with you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being a guest here on the show. Now, as is tradition, we'd love to give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves to perhaps those few people out there that may be unfamiliar with you or your work. So first question, what makes you you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
What makes me me? I'm an explorer. I think if I had to use one word. I love to travel. I love to observe, and I'm learning as I go along in life about what this means to listen. And the book Sacred Listening, of course, is what we're talking about today. Just a little bit more about me. Not only do I love to write, I also I'm an artist. I love to paint. I love to dance, and of course, my greatest treasures are my three sons.
Absolutely. I can definitely understand that as a boy mom myself as well. They are definitely a special part of who we are. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that life presented the opportunity?
It really, I think, was both. It was life kept opening up the conversation. Margaret, do this, do this. In high school, a teacher encouraged me. In college, a teacher encouraged me. But I had very little self-worth at those times. And so I never pursued it. But as life went on, I just found myself being, it's like a magnet pulled to it. And I call it my life raft. It is my safe place, my place where I can commune with myself and with God. And I just love it.
Now, the title of your book, Sacred Listening, I love that first part, but then you add from fear to love to qualify it even more. How did you come about that title?
Well, for me, sacred listening is a journey, an inward journey to discover oneself. And when you get the book, if you get the book, you'll notice it's very experiential in design. It's a lot of questions, a lot of activities and prayer. But it's not just the seeking inward to myself, but it's also the seeking outward to my creator, to our creator. And so that's why I called it sacred. And then the reason I put the subtitle was what I'm discovering on my journey. The more connected I am with my divinely loving creator, the less fear I have. And Jesus told us, in perfect love, there is no fear. And so I am discovering this actually to be a truth, of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remind people every day how important it is for us to have that scripture down in our spirit, that we must absolutely have it so that we can recall it in those times where we really need it. So I couldn't agree with you more there. So I tend to give books as graduation gifts. So I'd like to ask the question this way. As far as the ideal reader is concerned, is your book appropriate for someone as young as a high school graduate, or do you think that they need to be college age or older?
I actually think this book would be appropriate for kids in grade school, actually. I think these are the kind of questions we should be asking ourselves, 2, 3, 4 years old. Some of them very fundamental questions about life. And I feel very deeply that our curriculums should include these kinds of conversations about what does it mean to be kind and loving, and what does it mean to forgive, and all these kinds of and questions about ourselves. What is it we love, and what do we do when we get upset and angry, and how do we manage that, and all those kinds of things. So I would say it's for any age.
I love that. And thank you so much for letting our viewers know as well, because so many times when we're talking about self-help, or we're talking about faith, or how to live our best lives, we don't always think about those younger than high school. And I love the fact that you're able to introduce this to even our little ones. So bravo for including them in the list. I love it. I love it. Now, when it comes to sacred listening, I love those two words together. As a therapist, listening is a very important thing that I do. But many times we have to teach others how to listen, how to communicate better, so that people can truly hear what we're trying to say. But you've qualified it to sacred listening. Someone may not be familiar with that term. Can you explain to us, what do you mean by sacred listening? How do you address that in your book?
Yeah, for me, sacred listening is about listening to our heart and our souls. It is what I would call the real part of us, and also listening to our divine loving guides and creator at the same time. And again, this is why I use the word sacred, because it's very special. It's not just, having a conversation about how are you today? I'm fine. And, oh, your hair looks pretty. It's a deeper conversation. It's a conversation about what my heart wants to say. Yes, it's what my heart and soul wants to say, or hear, or learn about myself.
I like that. I like that. Now, for many authors, there's a particular thing that inspired them, or even perhaps a person who nudged them and said, you have to write this book. You need to share this with the masses. Did you have such an experience? What was your inspiration, or who nudged you to get the book out there?
Wow, that's a great question. And it was my grief counselor. Her name is Grace, albeit a perfect name for this woman. And I have written poetry for many years. And again, because of my lack of self-confidence, I never shared my work with many people. But I did share it with her, because I felt very safe with her, of course. And she really encouraged me to do this book. And honestly, if it wasn't for her encouragement, I don't think it would have ever been written. And she continues to encourage me on my journey all the time. So she's quite the angel in my life.
Oh, I love that. And it is so true. I have never met someone named Grace that wasn't just so appropriately named. There are some names that they really and truly are. The name Pearl as well. I have not met a Pearl who was not truly a gem. So you are so right there. Now, speaking of emotion and feeling, I like to ask this question, especially for any aspiring authors that we have that are listening. When you went through the process, you have written the book, you have chosen the cover, gone through all of that. It is now published, and you are holding copy number 1 in your hands. How did you feel in that moment?
Wow. It was, as you might imagine, a very special moment, because it was a collection of so many steps that I was willing to take into fear. Many, many steps into fear. Who would want to read something I had to write anyway? And what do I have to say that no one else has said? And all of these self-degrading things, but I did it anyway. And it was a process like everything. And I have done art with it as well. I did the art graphics, each chapter has a mandala, and I did the art as well as the writing. And so it was really a moment of owning my voice. And that was huge for me, like huge. And I want to encourage, and I do encourage people every day that I meet. There's so many people who want to write their stories. They want to write their books. And I say, do it, go for it. Even, do it for you. And it will be a gift to everyone else as well, but do it for you and speak that voice and write that story. And it will be so healing and uplifting. Yes, it was quite a moment, and it continues to be.
I love it. I love it. Now, we have about 2 minutes left in this segment, but I want to ask this. When you were in the process of writing or creating, did you find that you needed to step away? Did you need to do it in a quiet space or during a quiet time that was really productive for you?
Absolutely. And I really had to incorporate a discipline as well. So it was morning for me. I'm a really morning person. And so it was, this is your job. You know, you sit down, and I had a beautiful space that, and I would encourage people to set up a really special place. And I would sit down every day, even if I didn't feel inspired to write. I just made myself sit down. And some days were more productive than others. The other thing, though, that I find for me in my writing, a lot of times it will come when I'm not sitting at the desk. So I'll wake up from a dream or something, and it just boom, and there. So I always had a pad of paper next to my bed, always, because often I would wake up with, oh, that's just exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it. And I will say this book was very, very guided through my guides. It was very guided through the other side, very much so. I know Mother Teresa said she's felt like the pencil in God's hand, and it really was very much that experience, combined, interlaced with my own personal experiences in life.
Oh, I can definitely understand that. I think that many authors, but also many entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, we feel the same way. It's in the middle of the night, many times, when we are restful, when God is able to talk to us in our dreams and give us that vision, and there's no distraction around us. We're able to hear or see so clearly. And I could not agree with you more. Please keep your handy dandy notebook around, because you never know when you need to jot something down. That definitely is a nugget of wisdom. Well, Margaret, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy, in contact with you?
So the title of my book is Sacred Listening from Fear to Love. It was published by Balboa Press, so of course you can get it from them. It is also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and any other booksellers.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Margaret Coan. I'm the author of this book, Sacred Listening from Fear to Love. It was published by Balboa Press, and you can find it at Amazon.com.
Hi, do you have something to share? Be a guest. Want to sponsor an episode? Visit drangela.chester.com. Thanks again for watching Daily Spark TV.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. I'm Dr. Angela Chester, but my guest today is Margaret Coan, and I'm so excited to be talking to her about her book, Sacred Listening from Fear to Love. Now, if you are a listener to Daily Spark with Dr. Angela Radio, you've had the opportunity to listen to us talk. And as you can see, we enjoy talking about this subject. So let's jump back in to this interview, because I can't wait to finish talking about her book. Well, Margaret, as I just said before, I had the privilege of talking to you on radio, and thank you so much for being my guest on there as well. But I think that this audience definitely needs to know more about your book as well. So one question that I have for you is, what makes this book different? What makes this book unique? There are a lot of self-help books out there in the world. There are a lot of books that talk about our faith and spirituality. So what makes your book a little different?
Well, I think there's two main things I think that make this book different. It's designed to be very experiential. So it's really more, it's not a book that you're going to sit down and read and about answers. It's a book that challenges you to engage on your own journey. So every chapter is a 7-day journey, and so daily, and every day has 3 questions that present you, and then an experiential exercise. So it could be meditation, it could be a walking meditation, it could be doing artwork. And then the 3rd section for each day is what I call holy listening or prayer. So it's an opportunity for the reader. I would actually call it a participant rather than a reader, to be honest with you, to engage with themselves. So the design is to give somebody who's kind of like, well, how do I do this? How do I do this inner journey? Gives them a little bit of a structure. And then, of course, they can go anywhere they want with it. They do not have to be held, and I don't want them to be held by the structure. My hope and prayer is it inspires them to, really engage with who they are and discover new parts of themselves that they may not even be aware of yet.
Oh, I love how you said that it's a participant, that the person is a participant in this journey. And, I could not agree with you more. I find that when people are participatory in their own healing, in their own journey, it takes the responsibility off of someone else and makes it your responsibility to take the journey along with yourself, to learn, to unlearn, to stop and listen, to be nudged to go on and move forward. So you are so right. I love that idea. And I have to tell you, that does make your book different. I've interviewed a lot of people, and there are not a lot of books that cause us to pause and participate. You might read, and take it all in, but having that interaction, I love that. I love that. Now, when it comes to hope and inspiration, when it comes to the journey and the path, many authors hope that the reader of their book will pick up some nuggets along the way in the journey that they take them on. With that being said, what is your hope for the reader? What is there a particular nugget or inspiration that you hope that they're able to glean from the book, having read it?
Yeah, I hope they get to know their beautiful them, and they discover just how wonderful they are. And the other thing that, of course, is a huge intention for this book is they get to know our loving creator. It is a dual mission. And I think they obviously one works with the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when it comes to the writing process, for many authors, they have to decide what to include, what to exclude. Many times you may do kind of a free writing style where you simply want to get the thoughts out of your head and onto paper or down in your laptop, right? But then you have to decide, is this too much? Is this too little? And kind of pre-edit your writing before it gets to the editing process. Were there any parts of the book that you found that were easier to write than others, or perhaps flip side of the coin, that may have been a little bit more difficult for whatever reason to write as opposed to other parts of the book?
That's a really good question. Once I established the structure, that it was going to be questions, experiential exercises, and prayer. Oh, and every day starts with a quote. Once I established that structure, it actually, each chapter was as easy as the next. Now, living the chapter, okay, so writing it, okay, because I think that may be also what you're asking, is there were chapters, for instance, feelings, even though I wrote this book back in 2012, I will tell you, there was much I hadn't lived yet, though I thought I had. So layer after layer after layer. And I'm actually finding myself going back to the book and using it. And I'm like, I wrote this. And in many ways, it doesn't feel like I wrote it. And I'm being very serious. It doesn't feel like I wrote it. Again, it was very guided. I'm not taking away the fact that I was an instrument. I own that and I'm grateful for that. But yeah, and I said, wow, this is really cool. The other thing I do want to mention is that part of this creation was I was working with hospice as a bereavement counselor. And I wrote this book in that time, and I have used it for many groups with the homeless, anybody in transition. It's a very anyone who's just in transition. It's a wonderful tool to help. And I also could see counselors using it, not to take away from their already knowledge and their gift and their wisdoms, but as a tool they might give one of their clients, oh, just to mention, it also has art in it. It also gives you an opportunity to do art in it. You get to color. Every chapter has a mandala black and white outline, and the participant gets to color their own design.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you have included those in there. I am one of those people who do go to the bookstore and pick them up and gift them. I think that coloring is a lost art for adults. We think many times that it is something that is just so childlike, or it's something that we only do as a kid. But yet adults find that when they're given permission to have their own coloring book, that it really and truly gives you permission to slow your world down, to be creative, and to hear. I think that we are living in a world that is so fast-paced, that everything is so hustle and bustle, and to be able to spend that quiet time, you have given someone a gift in that moment, because they're having permission to slow down and to hear someone's voice other than their own. And that is time with Holy Spirit, time with God, in that sacred listening moment. I love that you have done that. And you're right. This is a great resource for any type of therapist or counselor, especially for transition, because we do help people through the stages and phases of their lives. So you are so right there. Now, when it comes to how we should read the book, for so many folks, they will put it in a way where you should read it from cover to cover, meaning literally page after page. Others may put it in a way where take in this chapter before you go to the next chapter. It's with layers. Many times we, in the spiritual or religious field, we find books are placed in a way where they're more like a devotional, where we read a few pages and put it down. Now, you touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to give you a little bit more time. What is the best way that we should read your book so that we can really utilize everything that you have available for us?
Your way. And let me elaborate what I mean by that. It was written with intentional sequential. Okay. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters. There is an intentional sequence. However, and so when I facilitate my sacred listening groups, I always go from chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the participants know from the get-go, we're doing 6 weeks and this is what we're going to do. So it's very intentional that way. However, having said that, I have found myself literally just picking it up and turning, and boom, there's the page I need. And friends of mine who have got my book have said that. They'll just like, boom, there's the page they need. So again, it can be very fluid, and it should be very fluid. And you, the reader, the participant, gets to decide how you want to use it. If you want to use it as a devotional, you can. If you want to be sequential and very mathematical about how you do it, you can. And if you want to just occasionally pick it up and turn to a page, yeah, I can. It's really up to you.
I love that. I love that. In that you've guided that person, for the person who's unsure, for the person who doesn't know, for the person who says, what do I need to do here? You've given them the instructions, but you've also given them permission to just open it. And I love that, because you're right. Holy Spirit sometimes does kind of just say, open the book, drop the book. I think many of us have done that with our Bibles as well, yes, where we feel like we're supposed to open our Bible, but we don't know where to go, but yet we will open it and we're led to a particular section, and there the answer is. So you are so right there. Now, last question for you, and that is, you mentioned that there are groups available. That really perked someone's ears up there. If someone wanted to participate in one of your groups, or if they wanted to get a little bit more of you, how do they go about doing that?
I am going to be facilitating these sacred listening groups again at my retreat center that I'm opening up soon. And you can find out more about them by just simply Googling my name, Margaret Coan.
I love it. I love it. I'm pretty sure you are going to get some participants because what you're doing is so awesome, Margaret. And thank you so much for helping people get through these various phases and stages of their lives, getting through this transition. And transition can be difficult, be it that it is transition from illness to wellness. It is transition of experiencing a loved one passing away and figuring out how do we go back to being happy even though they're not around us anymore. We go through all of these stages and we do need someone who is mindful of that, who's empathetic and understands the importance of the phase and the stage. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing not only about your book, but about your upcoming events and allowing people to really get more of you that need that one-on-one. Now, before I let you go, can you remind everyone one last time, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
So the title of the book is Sacred Listening from Fear to Love. And it was published by Balboa Press. You can get it on Amazon and any other booksellers.
Thank you again, Margaret, for being a guest on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
And listeners, thank you for spending time with me here as well. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Know how to wear your face mask correctly. First, wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or use hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Put your face mask over your nose and mouth and secure it under your chin. If the mask has loops, hook them around your ears. If it has ties, secure them at the base of your neck and crown of your head. Make sure you can breathe easily. Remove your mask carefully. Untie the straps or unhook the loops from your ears and pull the mask away from your face without touching the front of your mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth when taking off your mask. Wash your hands for at least 20 seconds immediately after removing your mask, or use hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Learn more at cdc.gov/coronavirus and coronavirus.gov.